Hello and welcome to This Week in African Tech. This is a witty, irreverent look at the African tech industry. Now, if this is something that's interesting to you, let's go. Now it's time for the rapid fire round. This is where we talk about who's raising money, who is doing well, and who is not. We start with GreenTech Capital, which has partnered with the Senegalese government to be able to provide investment to startups in that country between 10,000 euro to €500,000. Next up, Mr. Green Africa's Kenyan tech-enabled plastic recycling startup has raised an undisclosed amount from DOB Equity, a Dutch family-owned impact investor firm, to expand its aggregation model. Kenyan B2B agri-tech startup Taimba, which operates a cashless mobile service which connects rural farmers to informal grocers and to schools and the like, has raised $100,000 from a US-based impact investor, GreenTech Capital. Listen, to be honest, there's a lot of funding news this week, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward this quickly and give you the information you need. And lastly, Mugo Kibati, CEO of Telecom Kenya, has accused Safaricom, Kenya's largest telco with over 70% market share, of derailing the planned merger between itself and Airtel Kenya. We do not know whether there is credible information to support this, but we do know this is an interesting space to watch. Now to the segment we call the Media News. Hilary Innocent Seguya Taylor, a Ugandan citizen studying for his master's at Harvard University, has just sued the president of Uganda for blocking him on Twitter.
Got him! Got him!
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, Hillary, in his petition, has stated that Twitter is a way in which he shares his views, thoughts, and suggestions with the country's president, and finds the blocking on Twitter to be both unreasonable and irrational. Now, to be honest, there's been a precedence of this. Earlier this year, the Knight Institute of Columbia University also went to court when the president of the United States, Trump, started blocking Twitter users. Now, they won their case because the court said that the blocking of US citizens by the US president constitutes an abuse of the right to freedom of speech. Now, as much as I think this is hilarious, I understand that the lobbying bodies that support these social media platforms are trying very hard to ensure that this does not become a tool where people are forced to have to accept basic abuse online. But my thinking here is that if you are a public official and you are on any of these social media platforms, your platform becomes a public forum. Maybe you can mute people, but I don't think you should be allowed to block people. By the way, Hillary, do you have a GoFundMe account? I'd like to send you some money to support your legal fund. This week, I spoke at the African Green Revolution Forum. This is one of the largest agricultural forums on the continent. To be honest, I slightly feel hypocritical when I have to speak and attend these events, because if we talk about agriculture and smallholder farmers and we're having conversations and there are not a lot of smallholder farmers in the room, we're not doing much. But anyway, I was on a panel where we discussed how to support and grow digitization within agriculture. My first thought on this was policy. Governments need to be able to define policies that can enable startups to be able to push the boundaries of innovation and enable startups to be able to be free to do what they do best. Secondly, business models. Now, traditionally, agri-tech has not really been a sexy space for funding for venture capitals. And so it's been carried for a long time by the grant-making machinery and donor funding institutions. Startups themselves need to begin to think around what business models and innovation in business models is needed to ensure that we can have commercial, scalable agri-tech startups on the African continent. But in the end, youth in Africa should be encouraged to not only farm, but to also build technology solutions to ensure that we can eat. Now, this third story is not a story that I would have liked to bring to you, but MTN Group, one of Africa's largest telecommunications providers, has closed all its service centers and stores across Nigeria. This is coming after a spate of xenophobic attacks on Nigerian citizens in South Africa. And because of that, Nigerian citizens in Nigeria are attacking South African businesses. South Africa and Nigeria are Africa's largest economies. None of this makes sense, but in the end, more work needs to be done across African countries to ensure that their citizens are able to be economically stable, and so will not have to look at foreigners as people taking away their jobs. And here is the end of this week in African Tech. And before I sign off, I do want to say thank you to one of our Advent watchers who sent me a fact check over WhatsApp. So actually, South Africa is not the first country to legalize cannabis in Africa. Lesotho is. So Lesotho apparently in 2017 was the first to legalize the cultivation and the export of cannabis from that country. And our dear watcher who gave us the fact check himself was part of the policy. So just as a point for you lot. I leave you with this video, and please do let me know if there are interesting stories that you would like me to share on the show. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll see you again next week.
Man.